What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to week 2 of Addy's Action, where I'll be breaking down the week 2 NFL main slate, giving you guys a bit more of GPP oriented play, some guys who I expect to come in at some lower ownership that you can use in tournaments. Um, Before I get into that, man, I hope you guys had a great week 1. I had a great week 1. My cash team did fairly well. You guys know I run one lineup. This was it. I'm not going to break it down for you guys, but there were some plays that I mentioned in last week's Addy's Action, like Jimmy Garoppolo. Um, and I talked about pairing him with a San Francisco pass catcher like I did with Dante Pettis. Wasn't expecting him to only play 2 snaps, but he did. But overall, still a good week. Was able to win cash games, double ups, head to heads, all that stuff. So hopefully we can do that for week 2. If you guys do want me to do some sort of lineup breakdown, just let me know. It'd be a good little twist to add to these videos, or maybe I can make it a separate video, whatever y'all want. But I hope you guys had a good week 1. As far as the plays in this video last week, they didn't do too hot. Garoppolo, I mean, super average. George Kittle, pretty average as well. He had 2 touchdowns called back, which hurts, but overall, pretty average score for what it was. Cooks, Fournette, Curtis Samuel, none of them really did too hot. So definitely not my finest week, but it'll get better. And these plays are going to be a bit off the board, so the odds of them failing, are fairly high, but you just want it to be more right than their percentage owned. If a guy's 5% owned and he's the best, highest scoring quarterback, 15% of the time, then you're looking pretty good. So, with that being said, let's jump into this. Or actually, just a few more things. Sorry. First off, if you guys want to go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe on this video, as always, we're running the same giveaway that we run every single week, where we give back a free season pass of your choice to just a dedicated watcher, if you will, someone who's been leaving likes, leaving comments. We just go through our weekly videos and pick a commenter for a free season pass. Last week's season pass winner was Glide. Glide, you still haven't messaged us on Twitter at LocksDFS. Just shoot us a DM over there, and we will get you set up with a free NFL season pass. So that you can hop in starting week 2. And also, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so right here at ReallyAddy. And if you want to join the team, go ahead and head to locksdfs.com and get yourself a season pass or a monthly pass, whatever you want. You can combine stuff. You can get like all sports pass as well. So whatever you want, go ahead, check it out. It's at locksdfs.com. I'll let you guys do that on your own time. But yeah, so with that all being said, now let's jump into this video. So you guys know I like to start off the video talking about a few of the chalkier plays at the position I'm going to talk about. So we'll start with quarterback. The guys coming in as far as highly owned at QB, you're going to get guys like Lamar Jackson after his massive week last week. Had huge regrets playing Garoppolo over Lamar Jackson for what it's worth last week. It's just pretty obvious to play I talked about how beneficial it is to have a running quarterback. So it was a pretty obvious move to go with Lamar Jackson there, but that is a mistake I made. But Lamar Jackson, for that reason, he's going to be super highly owned on this slate, and rightfully so. A guy like Pat Mahomes and what is expected to be a shootout will also garner some ownership. I believe Christian talked about him in his cash game video, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out, if you're looking for a bit more of a cash game oriented build or some more cash game centric plays, Christian did a whole video on that yesterday. It's uploaded on this channel, so go check that out. But yeah, guys like that, they'll come in fairly highly owned. But a guy that I'm really interested in, who's just way too underpriced on this slate, is going to be Ben Roethlisberger at 5,800. As of right now, he's looking like he's coming in around 5 to 8% owned on DraftKings, which is way too low for Big Ben at home at this price point and in this matchup. First thing first, I mean, he's playing a Seattle team that just got shredded by Andy Dalton. No A.J. Green, and Andy Dalton still had over 400 yards passing. And that is with the Seattle defensive line being able to really get to that Bengals offensive line. I believe they sacked. I have the Seattle defense. I believe they sacked Andy Dalton 5 times. He had pressure in the pocket all day, but he was still able to throw for over 400 yards. So definitely a good spot for the pass game. Big Ben, we know he's got massive home road splits. He averages almost 40 yards per game more at home. This is over a big sample size too. Over 40 yards per game more at home, and about 1.5 more touchdowns per game as well. We've seen Pittsburgh is a team that last season They would get out to big commanding leads and not really take their foot off the gas. So, which I don't really anticipate. I kind of anticipate this game kind of being a shootout. One of the wide receivers I talk about will be from this game as well. But yeah, so I love pairing Big Ben with Juju. Juju's coming in actually fairly highly owned. I believe like third or fourth highest player overall, which is pretty surprising to me coming off what was a bad week. But that should play into Ben's low ownership as well. I mean, when people watch a primetime game and a quarterback struggles, as they did last week versus New England, which is just like, you're going to struggle at New England. It's just going to happen. Belichick, just a genius with his defensive game plan. So I love this. I love this bounce back spot for Big Ben today or tomorrow. And I love pairing him with Juju or even a guy like Vance McDonald, who ran, I think, the fourth most routes of all tight end last week. And is just coming in like at 0% owned. So I do like pairing him with a few of his pass catchers or running it back with some Seattle guys as a full game stack. So with that being said, let's move on to running back. So running back's an interesting position because a lot of these guys are just real highly owned. Like the top 6 guys as far as ownership goes, 3 of them are running backs: Kamara, Josh Jacobs, and Austin Eckler. I think you'll see a lot of people just plug those 3 guys in, running back flex, and move on from there. So I think that gives us a pretty good opportunity to deviate a bit in that sort of price range as well and get some lower owned guys who are just equally as good of plays. One guy I really like a lot that I'm going to talk about in this video is just $100 less than Austin Eckler, so you can almost guarantee he's going to come in virtually unowned. And I think go with either one of these 2 guys right here, Mark Ingram or Derrick Henry, but the guy I'm going to talk about is Derrick Henry. We just saw Austin Eckler come off this matchup versus the Colts where he shredded him for over 6.3 yards per carry, a few catches as well. I believe he had 7 receptions or something like that. Just a massive game. We saw Derrick Henry run only 10 week 1 routes, which isn't great on a PPR site like DraftKings. Maybe he's more suited to a site like FanDuel. But, you know, his season high in routes run last season was only 13. So having 10 in week 1 is certainly promising for his receiving game upside going forward. And we saw him house a screen pass for like 75 yards. So he's definitely capable if he wants to. The one drawback to this game is that we are going to see it be played at one of the slowest paces in the league. Both Tennessee and Indianapolis run at, I believe, like bottom 7 paces. But you're getting a solid workload in Derrick Henry. You're locked into 20 touches and all the goal line work. So if you do expect a team like Tennessee to take a fairly decent lead over Indianapolis and hold it, as they are 3.5-point favorites with a little bit of line movement in their favor, just sets up really well for a home favorite running back like Derrick Henry. And I think he makes for a decent pivot off a guy like Austin Eckler. That game will also be played at a very slow pace. It's a tough matchup versus the stout Detroit defense. The Chargers are traveling west to east, playing in a 1 p.m. game. That's typically not been that favorable. So, you know, if you are looking to fade a guy like Austin Eckler, I think you go with either one of Mark Ingram or Derrick Henry in this price range. I think they both make for great plays. So, moving on to wide receiver. So I kind of alluded to this earlier, a sort of game stack with Pittsburgh and Seattle. One of my favorite games to hit the over on the slate. I just think it's setting up really, really well for a smash Pittsburgh game. And I think Russell Wilson is going to be able to keep Seattle in this as well. And I think one other guy that's going to really help him is going to be Tyler Lockett. A guy who was really popping in week 1 and just had an awful game. He came out after the game and said he wasn't used to being double teamed because he's never been double teamed before. And surely that does make sense. I mean, there's not many other weapons on the Seattle pass game, so you do have to worry about teams recognizing that Tyler Lockett is sort of like the only real pass game weapon outside of like maybe DK Metcalf, Chris Carson, guys like that. But they are going to throw a double team at him a lot. We don't necessarily have to worry about that in this matchup, though. We have seen Pittsburgh do this goofy thing that they've done for years now, where they like to guard slot wide receivers with their linebackers, and they just get shredded by slot wide receivers all season. You can pinpoint numerous massive games by slot wide receivers last year from like Julian Edelman and on. And so I think Tyler Lockett's in an awesome, awesome bounce back spot. He ran 82% of his week run routes out of the slot. They're projected to be trailing by, I believe, 3.5 points. But you see the overs being hit a little bit. 65% of bets on the over has jumped a point. I like this game to go over that 47.5 total. And I think a huge part of that's going to be Russell Wilson to Tyler Lockett, which I really like as a tournament stack, as well as Big Ben to Juju, which is a great way to run it back. Even a guy like James Conner, who's supposed to be, the home, or I should say the running back one, home favorite, all sort of checks all those boxes, makes a lot of sense as well. So big fan of a game stack here. Definitely going to be overweight on that in GPPs and in my cash game lineup. Moving on to tight end. So I write notes before I make all these videos, and I write like a few quarterbacks I want to talk about, a few notes about each of them, a few running backs, so on and so forth. And then then I pick one and I talk about them. So at tight end, I was in the process of doing that, and all I wrote was just play the chalk. The chalk in this week is just so overwhelmingly obvious at tight end that it's hard to come up with a GPP play. It's hard to come up with a GPP play that is going to compare to these guys. I did mention a guy like Vance McDonald at 3,900. He ran quite a few routes. I can't recall if it was the fourth or fifth most. It was one of the one of the top 5 routes ran in the league for tight ends. He just didn't get any volume. But you can just sort of just chalk that game as a fluke at New England. It's going to go poorly for any team. A guy like Evan Ingram makes a lot of sense. This dude's just going to have a monster year. It's just not much else to say about that. But he's going under-owned to guys like the obvious chalk, which let's get into them. Darren Waller at 3,300, and TJ Hawkinson at 3K. Vernon Davis at 3,200. All these guys are coming in fairly highly owned. I believe it's in that order as well, actually. Darren Waller first. Travis Kelce. How could I forget to mention him without Tyreek Hill? 7,300. All these guys coming in super highly owned. And it's just hard to get away from them. I mean, just to talk about each of them a little bit individually, Darren Waller played every single snap last week, and now he's going to be trailing to a team that plays at a ridiculously fast pace and struggles to cover tight ends. Darren Waller got a 31% snap share or target share last week, which is the highest out of all tight ends. Just a total nut spot for him at 3,300. 3K cheaper than that is TJ Hawkinson, who had over 140 air yards, which is the most by a rookie tight end ever. One of the highest air yards for a tight end in the past few years, actually. So he's 3K. The Chargers are going to be missing. I forgot their tight end. His name's eluding me, Derwin James. But their primary tight end defender, they're going to be missing him. So TJ Hawkinson, they should be trailing versus the Chargers. So definitely interested in going to TJ Hawkinson here in this spot. And then going up a little bit farther, obviously Travis Kelce. Without Tyreek Hill, a massive ownership share is going to go, or a massive target share is going to move towards him. You might see a lot of people play guys like Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman, but you just know we're going to get Travis Kelce. You just lock him into 11 plus targets or 11 or so targets, maybe a ceiling of 15 targets or so. And in this matchup versus an Oakland team that's just going to struggle to cover tight ends all season, just a huge fan of going with him tomorrow. So that'll wrap it up for tight end. I know I didn't give you guys a specific GPP play, but it's just sort of a play the chalk week at tight end. I can't really. There's not much else to really say about that. With that being said, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. As always, please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You know we run the same giveaway every week. All you got to do is leave a like, leave a comment, and you'll be entered into winning a free season pass of your choice. With that all being said, I hope you guys have a great week 2, and I'll see you back here for week 3 on Addy's Action. Peace.